Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, true to form, Officer Walden and the Chicago City Police Department are arguing that this is not the same knife. That this possibly was not the same knife that they found at the scene. But ladies and gentlemen, Officer Waldman and Officer Levy, in their depositions, both stated that this was the knife they saw at the scene. Now they're trying to change the story yet again. Officer Sloan Thomas and his independent police report also testified this was the knife bagged in evidence. He marked it himself. This was the knife. Officers Waldman and Levy also indicated that the knife was preserved for evidence. When it was picked up by an independent officer, he used a handkerchief and they bagged it in evidence. This knife is exactly how they found it at the scene, and this knife has no evidence of being used to stab anyone. This knife has no fingerprints, this knife is closed, and this knife has no blood on it. Therefore, their story that this knife found at the scene was the knife that was used by Mr. Ramirez to allegedly stab Officer Levy simply is not true. Mr. Ramirez did not stab Officer Levy. Furthermore, the other side is going to tell you, and has told you, that Mr. Ramirez was convicted of criminal assault. Ladies and gentlemen, they're leaving out a very important fact in that assertion, and that is that Mr. Ramirez was acquitted of aggravated assault. An aggravated assault is assault used with a deadly weapon, such as a knife. He was acquitted. The jury found no evidence, insufficient evidence, to find him guilty of assault with a deadly weapon. I think we all agree that there was a simple assault, an assault with bare hands, by both parties in this case, by Ramirez and Officer Levy. There was a fist fight. Both parties agreed there was a fist fight. And the jury agrees with that. But the jury acquitted Mr. Ramirez of aggravated assault, of assault with a deadly weapon. So if anything, the jury verdict at the criminal trial corroborates Mr. Ramirez's story and actually casts serious doubt on the story of the police officers. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Angrist furthermore testified that it is her professional opinion that Mr. Ramirez was on the ground when he was shot. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you simply cannot afford to allow the Chicago City Police Department, or any law enforcement officer for that matter, to be able to act out in a fit of rage and act out in a trigger-happy, rash moment in using his gun. His gun is there for the most extreme circumstances in preventing deadly force. His gun is not to be used against people who are unarmed, and is not to be used against people who are on the ground. His gun is to be used against deadly force. There was no deadly force threatened. There was no deadly force used. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is your duty and your responsibility to keep the police department whole. It is your duty to keep the police department to a standard and hold them to a standard of integrity that will protect you. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer Waldman has a history of abuse. He has a history of excessive force. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he's trying to cover it up. Please do what's right for the citizens of Chicago. Please do what's right for my client. And show that when police officers act out in a rage, it is not acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Officer Waldman, at the scene of the crime, jumped out and shot him. At the scene of the crime, Officer Levy, and Officer Waldman for that matter, failed to yell police until they were already engaged in a fist fight. Ladies and gentlemen, police officers should not engage in fist fights. Police officers should either arrest or they should send the perpetrator on their way home. They should not engage in fist fights, and they certainly should not shoot people on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, hold them to a higher standard of integrity. Thank you very much.